This is the Amp Hour Podcast, recorded March 19th, 2013. Episode 137, Mercurial, Mars, Mission.
Welcome to the Amp Hour. I'm Dave Jones from the EEV blog.
And I'm Chris Gamble of Chris Gamble's Analog Life.
What's up, Chris?
Happy St. Patrick's Day to you, Dave.
Well, that was yesterday.
A green beer drinker, but some of us
yeah,
are. Some of us
I
are still
don't do
recovering.
like that. Yeah. How many listeners do we have from Ireland?
Oh, I don't know. I should check that.
Do we have a
do a
stat
little
on
soft
that?
shoe, and I can look it up real quick. Yeah.
Oh,
Do
Go for it.
Do your thing.
Live
so
here.
What's new in Australia?
What's new is that I'm pissed off.
Oh yeah, what from?
Oh man, I can't believe it. I spent hours shooting this teardown, and there were like 80 clips or something. There were like 100 all up or something. But after the 20th clip, the stupid camera decided to corrupt all the files. And I didn't know. I'm pressing record. The record button comes up. Everything's fine. Like, I trust my camera. I've done hundreds of videos with it, right? And no, then I go over to walk over to the computer, happy. Oh yeah, just finished my teardown. Haha, I'm going to edit this thing, and I stick it in, and I copy all the files over, put them in my editing program, and I go, where's the rest of them? And it turns out
no,
it didn't save like 80 of the clips.
Oh man.
And then, of course, I'm an idiot, right? I think I've had like little quirks like this before, and I'm an idiot thinking that I can actually. It's faster to attempt to recover the files, and do that than it is to just go and go. Look, I give up. I'm just going to go reshoot the whole bloody thing, right? So I spent hours trying to recover the files, only to discover that. Of course, it can't recover them. Yeah, it got like 80 files back, but they're all mangled. They're chopped. The first thing, the start was all chopped off, and you
start wishing you knew how to like do software and like bit wrangle and all that stuff at that point, right?
Maybe because the data's like on there, right? Somewhere,
it's there in some form.
But I tried like two or three
by
different.
1 bit.
Yeah, exactly. I tried 2 or 3 different recovery programs. One of them have found 80 files, and I thought, oh, yeah, great. And then, you delve deeper into it, and no, they're just no good. So after many hours, 3-4 hours of trying to recover this shit, I had to bite the bullet and go, nah, just give up. Just go reshoot the whole thing. So
right, and there is no there's no version control for videos, huh?
No, there's no. So
I was thinking about version control today. I was thinking about like Dropbox and if that would work for actual version control, and I don't really think it would.
Well, it doesn't work for video because it's a bandwidth thing, right? I still use SneakerNet. I edit at home, right? Mostly. Sometimes I edit here. I tried to edit the teardown here the other day, but so I've got to take it home on an SD card. SneakerNet.
Oh yeah.
I've got to.
Yep.
Yeah. It's the only thing that works.
What, did it get corrupted? Did your data get corrupted in transit? You get some water on it or something? Sweaty pockets or something like that?
I'm pretty sure I know what happens. Because these DV cameras, these HD cameras, right, they save it in the standard file format for
like
HD, which is all in the directory structure. It's in stream, and then it's in, blah, 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 blah. And the camera, because it's got internal playback stuff for this, it actually generates, and for each video file, it generates an associated file that has like a thumbnail and everything else, and like an index of how long it is. So it can replay them and all that sort of stuff. And I don't erase any of that. So when I erase the card, I just erase the video file. So all those existing other ones are
so
in there,
associated
right?
them.
Yeah, so that
and it doesn't always do unique numbering either.
No, exactly. Because that's the thing.
Right.
If I erase the card, it starts from the unique numbering 1 again. Whereas if I just erase the video files, it just counts. The next video will count from 300
that's what they should do, like a hash
onwards.
or something like that. They should do like a CRC on like the date and how many videos you've taken. Like a counter or something. But then you'd have to have flash on the camera or something.
I don't know,
that
but,
sucks.
And the other thing I hate about the camera is that I've been every month since I bought it, like, I don't know, what, 2 years I've had the bloody thing now or something. I've looked for a firmware update because it came with the original 1.0 firmware, and I thought this is their top of the line camera, like prosumer camera, right? So like surely it'd be the one that they, do the most, pay the most attention to in terms of firmware updates to make sure it's professional and reliable and all that. So no, they've never ever
they've
released a
already sold
single. Yeah, but they do it for other cameras, like little pissant $300 ones, right? They'll give you a firmware upgrade, but they won't do it for, like, they won't give you improvements on their top of the line camera.
They're still
it's
selling the
ridiculous.
hardware and everything,
and they still sell it. Well, they just bought out a new one after 2 years, but it's not much different. So
that could put the kibosh on the updates sometimes too.
Yeah, but it was 2 years. Not a single firmware update in
That
2
sucks,
years.
man.
That does suck.
That's the tough problem with all kinds of consumer stuff, right? I mean, it's like at a certain point, you wish they just give you a disc and be like, you update it, you write the firmware updates, a-holes.
But that's their business, You think they would have somebody, at least one person, dedicated to, like, just, bug fixing and maybe, add in the odd feature here and there, especially to their top-end gear.
No, they'll just, they know you're going to buy another one in 2 years. That long-term support stuff, that's a tough business to be in.
I know.
Like when because you don't ever get the friendly calls from someone 2 years down the line like you, right? You get calls from someone 20 years ago. Why don't you support me anymore? Oh my God, I can't believe this.
Like
you need to do all this work now.
I bought your Universal Programmer 20 years ago. Why don't you support the latest chips? Oh.
Yeah, exactly. It's a tough problem.
It's a shit business to be in if you have to maintain old stuff.
It's not just consumer stuff either. It's across the spectrum.
It's hardware. It's oscilloscopes. It's whatever.
Right, exactly.
It's
And
absolutely.
I mean, I'm sure many of our listeners know this one too. Like when you have to keep the build tools around, right? You have to rebuild firmware or software. That's a tough
you've got to keep
an
image of the disc from 1983 because they're the tools, you
Not even that, you have to keep the hardware because that disc for 1983 only works on an Amiga 500, right? Or
that's right.
Whatever you're using for a build tool at the time. I had at my old job, I had a computer in the next cube over that was sitting there humming along. It was some ancient Unix machine, but about every 3 months the bearings on the fan would go out, so it'd start it's just like, and what are you gonna do? It's like you gotta build with it, so you keep it around, you shoot some lubricant in there, and it quiets down a little bit. It chugs along. But those Unix machines, they keep going, man. That's great.
Yeah. They stay up for years, decade.
Yeah. So if our listener, I would be interested
Windows
in
stuff.
that. What's that?
Like I had Windows 3.1 machines at work that would be up for 5 years, not a problem. It had only failed because the hard drive failed, Yeah. I mean, or the power supply failed.
Well, a lot of times, if they're not on a network, that helps too, right? I mean, if it's a build machine on a network, that usually gets dicey because then newer computers want to talk to it and stuff, and then they can get crap on there.
But if they got an old robust operating system that didn't do much, then
right, and it doesn't try to update itself too. That's the other thing, if it's on a network, it's I'm going to go look for updates.
Itself. Yeah, no, that's a modern thing.
That's true.
Back in the days of Windows 3.1, well, there was no internet.
Sneakernet.
They just.
Sneakernet.
I mean, Windows 3.1, I think, was the one that really added networking capability. Correct me if I'm wrong, but 3.0 didn't have it, and the big step up, it added networking, or something like that. So, but back then there was no internet, Well, there was, but not as we know it,
Yeah. Yep. All right, so to answer your question from about 10 minutes ago, let's see, which show is this? This was...
Oh, yeah. You were getting the stat.
Show 130. We had about 5,600 listeners so far, which is awesome. And 73 of them were from Ireland.
Wow.
All right.
What percentage of that? Is that 73 divided by...
73 out of...
What is it, 5,000? 5,000 odd?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, it's really interesting looking at this stuff.
1.5%.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Wow.
And there was, let's see, what was the lowest numbers? We had one person from Colombia, one from Senegal, Ecuador. I mean, like, it's cool.
Hi,
it's like
guys.
everywhere.
I mean,
it's like
that's awesome.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
And we've had some people write in, like about where they are. I think there was, I forget the one. I think there was someone. I forget what country it was. It was a really small. It was like St. Kitts or something like that. I don't remember, but yeah, small countries.
That's one of the things I love about my mailbag. I'll get. A mail from not only some country, but just from some small town somewhere, in the middle of nowhere, and it's great. And that's not new, this is back in the old days when I used to get letters, for my projects. People would order my stuff, they'd send a letter, or they'd send a letter to me, a handwritten letter, and it'd come from
self-addressed stamped envelope.
With a self-addressed stamp. Yeah, the nice ones would send a self-addressed stamp envelope, but the others would expect you to actually buy a stamp, lick it, and send a reply back to them. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Man, that's
yeah. And then you'd get like kits in the mail. Somebody bought your kit or something like that, and it didn't work, so they'd just send it back to you. So you just open your mail one day, and there's a kit with a note saying, "Fix it."
Fix it. Send me a refund. Sorry about the gum I stuck in there.
And you just take one look at, and you get the letter that, Smart Ass says, I know all about electronics, and I spent hours thoroughly inspecting and testing this thing, and there's nothing at all wrong with my soldering and assembly, and it must be your stupid design, so you're obligated to fix it, otherwise I'm going to tell the electronics magazines on you. And
I bought this 20 years ago.
So you look at it, and in 30 seconds you go, your input regulator soldered back to front, dude. So it's like, you couldn't even measure the supply voltage, you dickhead.
The last thing I meant to look at. Well,
oh boy, yeah,
it's crazy.
Fun days.
Can you imagine getting a call like that from Mars? Eventually,
I would love to.
Oh, that'd be crazy. I ordered your kit. It took me 6 months to get it, and now I got it. I'm sending it back to you. I've been living on this planet for 14 years now, and I've never been treated like this by customer service.
And I only got up to 1,400 degrees during the re-entry.
I stored it at a totally safe location in the nose cone. It only took 30% of all the heat on the re-entry. Oh, man.
I like this thing you've added. What kind of electronics should we bring to Mars?
Yeah.
And it's coincidental.
They're asking, right, they're asking for volunteers now, finally. And I know that I said that I would volunteer to die there. I think you might have agreed the same.
If I was young and single, it'd be
the key
it'd
point.
be a choice. Yeah.
I asked the wife, and she said, "Hell no."
See ya.
I think that was the response. Yeah.
Oh boy. Yep.
Because they stated you're not coming back. That is the first people going there. You're not coming back. And I don't know why people would expect that, anyways. But people are going apparently.
Well, see, I haven't read this whole thing or watched there's a video, right? People willing to die on Mars. I haven't watched it yet, but there's no reason to do that. Now, this is coincidental because at the moment I am actually reading the leading book on how to get to Mars, explore it, and get back and do it safely and do it cheaply, right? And it's by a guy named Robert Zubrin, and he's like the world's leading expert on getting to Mars. And it's a great book. I haven't finished it yet, but it's awesome. It's called The Case for Mars, and it all. Should I tell you the whole history?
How about a concise history?
A concise history. Okay. Well, the concise history was back in 1990. I could be wrong. Bush. I think it's. Was it the previous Bush? I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be early 90s. Would be. Herbert Walker Bush.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he got up there in front of the Smithsonian Institute and said to the world, "We're going to Mars." And everyone went rah rah rah, and he was surrounded by Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and everyone else, and we're going to do it, right? And of course, so he told NASA, right, go and give us a plan. So NASA came up with what's called the 90-day plan, right? Or so, because it took them 90 days to do the report, right? And It was going to cost $450 billion, and it was so hideously complex it'd be the greatest engineering feat in the history of the human race. So, yeah, Congress just went, yeah, right.
Right.
And it just died. Right.
Right. And when you look at the relative cost, too, I mean, like, it's not like the original the moon mission was cheap by any, stretch,
it was about $80 billion adjusted, right? But this was going to be $450 billion minimum, right? And, of course, you double that, right? Because, So it was probably going to cost $1 trillion. So this Robert Zubrin, who worked at Martin Marietta. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. One of the rocket companies or whatever.
Lockheed Martin?
No.
Okay.
Martin Marietta or something. Anyway,
I don't know.
Anyway, that company formed a little task group. They said, this is ridiculous, right? This plan's a joke. So they formed this little task group with this guy was in it, and they came up with an idea for what's called Mars Direct. And it's going to Mars, get in there, stay in there for a long time, get in there directly, stay in there for a long time, exploring the damn thing, and then continuously exploring it, mission after mission after mission, and do it for like 15 to 20% of the existing NASA budget. Right? Really cheap. Yeah. And of course NASA didn't like that. Why?
Well, wait. Were they supposed to come back, though? Is that the idea, or no?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so send people back.
And it was fully redundant and everything. They had backups upon backups. Very safe. It's a genius idea. I'll link in a video. There's a documentary on it as well. I think I'll
have to watch this book, or read this book,
Mars Direct. But there's a video that sort of covers it all as well. There's a documentary on like BBC or something about it.
Okay.
And the reason that the NASA one was so, and this ties into engineering, right? This is why, the reason why the NASA one was so hideously complex and expensive is because internal politics, right? They wanted to make use of everyone's pet little project, right? So all the people who wanted the moon colony, they said, "Oh well, you've got to make a colony on the moon first, and because that, and then use that as your staging base to go into Mars."
A true design by committee, right? We'll pull in this element, and this element, no, this element, right?
Yes. Yeah. So you had to pat on the back every little pissant idea project with inside NASA, right? Everyone's wet dream project. So the system ended up being, you assemble this massive space station in low Earth orbit, and then you go to the moon and you set up a colony on the moon, and you set up these giant, and then you build on the moon these giant
then you go to an asteroid, then you go to
Battlestar Galactica size ships, right? That then fly to Mars and then stay in orbit around Mars, because there are people who want to do science in the orbit around Mars, so you have to, scratch their back as well. So you've got to stay in orbit. So you do all this, you spend $450 billion to spend like 2 weeks on the surface, then come back and that's it. It's ridiculous.
That is ridiculous.
It's a joke, and that's common in engineering. Right?
It can be.
Internal politics in big companies dictate you don't do it the best, cheapest, and most efficient way. You do it the way that scratches the most backs within the company.
Yeah, not all. It depends on. Yeah, I mean, it depends on the company and the groups in the company.
Of course.
But that can definitely happen. I tweeted about that earlier this week too. Like, just in system design, just how many decisions are not necessarily made by an engineer. Managers make a lot of decisions because the buck often has to stop with them, or sometimes at higher levels the decisions are made up there because of pet projects or internal politics. Oftentimes purchasing makes decisions because of part availability, or just they don't like a certain supplier. We never heard of that.
Happens all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, there's just so many levels where decisions are actually made. When you finally, if you cornered someone and said, "Who made this decision?" and if you corner the design engineer every time, it's not always going to be them. It's just when like you said, there's pet projects to be fulfilled, it can get really messy, really fast.
And when you've got a big company like NASA with lots of they investigate so many things. Well, not only subcontractors, but they investigate so many things and technologies. They have so many ideas that there's when something like Mars comes along, when people start smelling the money, they go, "Woohoo! I can get some money for my little, wet dream project." And that's that can happen in big engineering companies as well as NASA. Yeah. Oh, you've got to reuse my code over here in my processor in my project, right?
Yeah.
Because it's the duck's guts, right? And we should standardize that across all of our company products, even though it's not the best or most efficient or the cheapest.
Right. Yeah. It might actually be better to rewrite the code or
exactly.
It might outsource it or something, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And,
it's weird because you need that. You almost need that that focus on the final goal, right? More than anything else. But
exactly.
It's oftentimes it's more internalized. It's more team based or nationally based.
Yep.
There's someone sent me this, and I had seen this before, but there was when I was kind of ranting about I wasn't even ranting. I was just talking about where those decisions are made. Someone sent me this tree swing. I'm sure you've seen it before.
I've seen it. Yeah, I used to have it posted up on the walls at the office.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So people could look at it, but it's just basically all the different way. If a customer comes and says they want a tree swing, all the different ways that it's interpreted by everybody, and this is actually an even more extended version of it than I've seen in the past. So, but there's some good ones. People should definitely check that out. I don't want to ruin it on here because if I talk about the whole thing, it's just like boring.
It's photos tell 1,000 words, pictures tell 1,000 words, and it's just hilarious.
So, if you were going to Mars, though, what would you bring? I mean, I guess I don't know. It's kind of tough to know because we wouldn't know exactly what the mission would need to be, but I'm sure there's some things that we know.
Mission. Well, as it talks about in this, power is everything, right? With power, you can generate. Using carbon dioxide in the Mars atmosphere, you can generate fuel for your rovers, for everything else. You can generate, oxygen, and you can generate water, and you can generate everything else. And but no, one of the most important. What would I bring in terms of electronics? You mean?
Yeah.
Well, you got to bring entertainment because one of the biggest deals would be, would be boredom, cabin fever. Right, it's a real psychological condition. The old cabin fever thing, where you used to go on the small ships, and the thing which you lived in would not be much bigger than my lab here, right?
Right.
And you're stuck inside that.
That might be luxurious too. I mean, first off, it'd be full of crap. More crap. Than
exactly. Walking over shit on the. Yeah. And
oh man.
So you would bring, things which keep
Reddit.
you.
I'd bring Reddit if I could. Could I bring
Reddit.
the slowest image UR downloads ever?
Yeah, and that 4-hour lag's a bitch for real-time chats.
It really
on
is,
forum,
Do they pick a pope yet?
Oh, boy. But then again, that stuff is trivial. Like, these days, right, you can take the entire world's history and every book ever written to Mars in a little, in a That's briefcase.
True. Yeah.
I mean, it's
the Hitchhiker's Guide, right?
Right. So, I think it would be things to stop you going insane. Because that would be the biggest fear. Unless the colony starts getting to thousands and huge and everything else, then the spaces you live and work and you're confined in are,
Yeah, that'd be rough.
Yep.
It'd be really rough.
It'd be tough. So that is the toughest part of this whole Mars thing, is how to stop people actually going insane. Because you're cooped up in, you've got the fear of never going home. You're cooped up in this tiny, 5 meter by 5 meter space, and to go outside is quite an ordeal, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So
I'm sure not crashing into a planet's surface would be a good goal to shoot for too. But
and they talk about They actually talk about this in the book. Stuff to and a previous book I read on Mars as well.
See, he's been prepping, folks.
Dave prepping. I've been prepping. I'm
in a
Mars fetish at the moment, so that's why this is quite.
Well timed.
And it's anyway. This book, the previous book I written, is written by an Australian guy, actually.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And anyway, they said one of the biggest things is you have to take stuff to redecorate the interiors every so often.
Really?
If you do that if you do that every couple of months, it stops people going insane and getting cabin fever. Yeah.
Man, I bet that's tough too, because I mean, like we all know this feeling, right? It's like you're in the lab all day, you're under fluorescent lighting, you're soldering nonstop for 6 hours,
and there's no
that.
windows, and there's
right, exactly. Yeah. And the only thing you want to do is, like you said, is a change of scenery. You want to go outside, even if you go to if you go to your basement. Some people do that, right? I mean, I might be in a basement right now. Some people go to the
lab next door and have a chat with somebody else.
Yeah.
What project you're working on?
Right, exactly.
What about so and so? Isn't he a dickhead? I mean. You just want to get out of there. My manager's
making all my decisions for me. That purchasing department, they suck.
Let's go outside for a fag, And, that's all part of, people just need to get out once in a while. Need to take a break.
Yeah, not going to go for a smoke break outside in Mars, huh?
They realised that you could toppably last about 30 seconds.
Oh, really?
Out there. Yeah.
I learned that from Total Recall.
Yes, exactly.
Your eyes bug that a little bit.
I think they went for about a minute on Total Recall, so I think it's a bit unrealistic. But yeah, they say you've probably got 30 seconds before you die. So, yep.
Nice.
There you go. Bit of trivia.
There you go.
Hardy.
Well, since we will not be
tell
going,
me, what would you take then? I mean,
well, like we've talked about in the past, would be spares, a lot of spares. But it'd be tough because I don't know how much it would be.
You take one of those chip printing machines, right? So that just like on that movie we talked about, not movie, the TV show Terra Firma.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Had those chip printing machines.
There were, we've talked about that a little bit in the past. But even, electronics for that kind of thing. I think really, having modular type of components that you could then build up, right? You wouldn't be able to have the most, compact things ever, because as complexity goes up, so does the failure rates.
Which means that the systems would have to use all common parts. When somebody who designed the power system and somebody who designed the control system for the rover, they should probably use interchangeable modules. That'd be a smart thing.
You want to you want to talk about a system design nightmare? Try getting two engineers to agree on the same capacitor manufacturer.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
No, well, what about the ESR characteristics?
And that's important because if you can end up in the shitter just like they did on Apollo 13.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Where
Dump the parts on the table and
the lunar module and the service module used one of them used square carbon filters, the other one used round. And when shit hit the fan and they had to use the limb as a lifeboat, right? Oh, look, these round filters don't fit in the square, or the square ones don't fit in the round hole.
Yep. Crazy,
and it almost cost them their life, right? I mean,
but like imagine the specific the logistics of that, getting a new part approved. It's like, first off, you'd have every vendor in the world trying to buy you. If you had like an extended Mars mission for 30 years, and they're charging $10 a cap because it's radiation hardened or whatever,
right?
You'd have vendors trying to buy you lunch.
$10, that's cheap.
At breakfast.
yeah, exactly.
It's
man.
Yeah.
Well, on the flip side of that, though, it actually can be better and cheaper, because if you're forced to use somebody else's module, well, all the decisions are made for you, right? If you have to be compatible with that module, so sometimes it's a good thing that those decisions are made for you, because a lot of engineering, you can get bogged down in the details of choosing.
Yeah, it sets your boundary conditions, really. Like, in a previous job, I had that where I wasn't allowed to. I was allowed to, but I was discouraged.
He wasn't allowed out of the lab folks.
The lunar module.
Wasn't allowed to touch anything. Wasn't allowed to do it.
Yeah, I was a new guy.
No, that was
me. Like when you're discouraged from registering new parts, right? That can just be a drug, right? You see a new part.
Oh yeah.
You hear about it on the amp hour, or you see it on a website. It's like, oh, I want to use that part, right? You just register it, get the footprint done, and you go, right? Well, then your part catalog starts to balloon to 1,000 parts when you probably could get away with 250 maybe,
Yeah.
And so when you're constrained like that, it just becomes a new boundary condition. You say, okay, well, I already have these caps, so I might as well just use them. And now instead of specking in 4.7 microfarad cap, I just use two 2.2 microfarad caps, that kind of thing. And then you just kind of design around that. And that space constraints notwithstanding, that can be a really good way to design, I think. I mean, I think there's a lot of benefit to that.
It can be. There is a lot of benefit to having the decisions made for you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I would put it like decisions made for you, but just boundary conditions. That's what it's all about. Yeah, I think engineers thrive with boundary conditions, personally. I mean, you tell me that I have, 4 square inches of PCB and I need to have 3 different, functions happening and here's the box of parts I can use to do it. I'm going to try and do it. That's a puzzle, that's like, let me at it, man. If it's like,
and as we've talked about before, you only have 7 days left to do it. You got to do it by this date.
Exactly.
And we'll do it with a bloody 10 minutes to spare because we're geniuses.
Right. And you have to use leadless solder. Yeah.
Boy. So there you go. Yes, boundary conditions. They are good.
Boundary conditions are good.
Sometimes.
I like them. Yeah, you don't want it to be... Well,
unless
it's tough when they're imposed by like
project, right?
Yeah, that's fun to kind of push the limits. You can... Like, I
do it.
Who is it? I forget. Jason Tautic, I think. He designed in a breakout board for that lightning detector circuit. Right. You ever seen that? I think we talked about that chip before, where it detects lightning strikes somewhere within some range. Right. It's like very few people get to design that in, like with an actual purpose. He just designed it in because he wanted to. I think it was Jason, but. It was just like a fun chip to use. If you're doing pet projects, you can just put those in, right? If it's like,
exactly.
You're not necessarily going to spec that in unless it's probably designed for your industry, and it's getting worse with that kind of like specific application stuff. I was talking to a big chip manufacturer the other day, and and I was like, well, I want to hear about new parts. Tell me about all your new parts. And they're like, well, there's only so many that are for your industry, and I'm like, yeah, I know. But just tell me about all of them. Because oftentimes, I already know about the ones for my industry.
Yeah,
I want to know about the ones for Dave's industry or, some crazy aerospace application, because it's when you get to refactor those already existing parts, that's when you get cool stuff.
You get innovative products often. You can come up with innovative ideas, because this part was designed for the seismic industry, but hey, if I go use it over here in the audio industry, hey, magic happens.
Exactly. Yeah, there was actually a part last week that I saw that I really don't know where I'd use it, but it was a cool part. It's a microchip part, actually. I think I told you about that after the show last week.
Oh, the wireless. Is this the body sensing thing?
I got to search on the Reddit. Sorry.
Yep.
But yeah, so it's a part from microchip. Yeah, so you can get a kit too, but basically you can put it's like a RFID tag, but instead of actually like beaming it over
it goes through your body. Yeah,
it uses your body as a capacitive channel, basically. So you think about having this thing in your pocket. It's touching your skin or whatever. You go and you reach for your door handle on your car. It does a transfer of the ID on that chip through your body, so it's not just flying through the air. And then it says, okay, well, this is Chris with ID 11449, right? And then it unlocks the car. And it's like, whoa! I mean, it's not like super crazy in the like the technology within it.
No, it's been done before, right? It's not
exactly.
It's not necessarily new, but hey, it's a chip, so you can just buy it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. They call it body com. Yeah.
Right.
Boring name, but
yeah, it's pretty
cool stuff.
Boring.
I mean, yeah. I don't know. I think, and the application I really like is thinking about that last Bond movie where he had the gun. The Walter PPK like James Bond always has, and that they were talking about like matching his palm grip, but this same kind of thing could happen where you could sew it in your clothes and only your power tools work with you, or only your weapon works with you if you're a police officer or something like that. Like that. Yep. That's cool. That's really cool. I don't know. I was geeking out about this last week.
No, totally. I can dig it.
Very, very nifty. I like it. I like that kind of... Oh, go ahead.
Speaking of nifty, there's a NAND-based computer.
Yes. This is fancy.
People have done these before, it's nothing new. It's, everyone's probably had the idea to, I'd love to do something like that.
I have never said that I wanted to do something like this. I will never say that. Dude, this is terrible.
I don't know, if you want to waste gorgeous, 6 months of your life, well, it's a great way to do it. Very therapeutic. Anyway, he's built a whole computer out of NAND gates. As you do, because with NANDs you can do anything, right?
Yeah, you tweeted that today, didn't you, or something?
Yeah,
or no,
I
you
did.
said that on the forum. On the forum, you said that.
I said forum or Twitter or somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said, what's the most popular chip? Yeah, that's right. It was the forum. Somebody asked, what common chips
what
as a
chip
hobbyist,
should we get?
What common chips should I stock? And I just said, well, you can build anything out of NAND gates.
Yeah, just one.
Yeah, it's true. You can build counters, computers, flip-flops. You can build everything just from a common NAND gate. So, yeah.
Probably would want to, though. I mean, this is really cool.
Here's an example of why you wouldn't want to, right?
Yeah. Well, it's not even this. I mean, this works, right? It's the problem of, oh, well, this LED isn't lighting now. Oh, crap. It's like chasing that all the way back through the system. That kind of stuff is...
Yeah.
You get to know it really well, though. I mean, that from a learning perspective, nothing...
Oh, yeah.
Nothing beats this,
It's fantastic.
And it's like, so my buddy did this with like a 6502 computer. A lot of people are into like the 6502, building up old stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
I just didn't... I don't know.
You young whippersnapper.
I know.
Yep.
Well, I mean, like, when you look at like a Raspberry Pi, it's like, but it's just what level you want to live on, right? If you want to live in the software level, then you go do software stuff.
Yeah, of course. You don't give a shit about hardware like this, right? It's stupid, right? This is the dumbest thing you've ever seen. Right?
Yeah.
This NAND computer, right?
But
you just
look
at it and go, why? You just wasted, how many hours of your life building that thing,
Right, but it's cool, and this guy did it all with looks like point-to-point wiring.
Point-to-point wiring. It's not wire wrap. At first you might think it's wire wrap, but no, it's point-to-point soldered wire. Yeah. So it's using perf board, and then he's just like green. Well, like he hasn't even used different color wire. He's just like green wire. He's got 1,000-meter spool of wire, and he's going to use it.
Yeah, that's the two things he got. He got three things. He got sockets, NAND chips, and green wire. Thanks, Grandma. Great birthday present.
And it's an absolute mess. I've built stuff like this. I built one off, maybe the size of one of his boards. He's got half a dozen, 6 or 7 boards or something. All with point-to-point wiring like this, and it's just wow, I wouldn't do that today. I would, do a proper PCB, and then because this is a one-off, right? Nobody else is going to replicate this, right?
Well, maybe
so
in
much
some
blood,
form.
sweat, and tears. Well, yeah, somebody might take your schematics. They might take your schematics and then go build a PCB, but no one's going to build it using point-to-point wiring like this, right?
Maybe you never know, man. You never know.
You never know. But hey, the odds are low, right? That more than one person is going to make one of these. But
yeah, maybe independently.
We were discussing this before the show, very quickly. Like, I used to do this back in the 80s, right? But now I wouldn't do it, right? Because, well, I like to share my projects with everyone else, and I get a bit of a kick if somebody else builds it as well, right? And I know that chances of somebody else building this are zip, right? So that's why I would have done this same. I can dig the idea of doing this. I'd love to do it. I would design it on a PCB and then maybe sell the blank boards or something, or at least release it as open source hardware so that at least some people can, get the thrill of building this thing up. And really, I don't think the thrill...
It's a new DFX almost, It's like there's DFT, designed for test, designed for manufacturing.
Oh, yeah.
And now this is DFS, designed for sharing. Right? It's like the new...
I like it.
Yeah.
Designed for sharing.
Trademark.
There you go, folks.
The definition of irony, right?
Industry term here on the Amp Hour.
Designed for sharing, trademark term. Do not use it without asking.
Right, yeah, do not share this term. Yeah. And see, now I think the value in this, right, is actually, figuring out how the thing works just with using NAND gates, right? How you build it is irrelevant. That's why I think it's a stupid idea to build it using 10,000 point-to-point wires, right? It's it's dumb. You don't learn anything by
you learn something
by doing point. No, you don't learn anything by doing point-to-point wiring, right? The only thing you're going to learn is when it fails, right? Is when it fails and you have to debug the thing and it becomes a pain in the ass, right?
That's a good. Think about how did you learn how to troubleshoot, Dave?
Yeah, exactly. But just the aspect of soldering 10,000 freaking wires point to point onto this thing doesn't teach you anything in itself.
It does.
No,
it teaches you. It teaches you the value of a good solder joint. It teaches you the value of taking your time. It teaches you the value of checking
but
your
you
work.
don't have to do it 10,000 freaking times.
Yes, you do. I disagree, man. We were talking about repair with Mike Harrison, right? That is a perfect example. You could say, oh well, I don't need to learn how to troubleshoot, a 10K ohm resistor, right? Knowing when it's blown. But when you see it 13 times in a row, you're going to start assuming. You're going to start ohming stuff out.
I totally agree. Right. But you can learn this by doing this once and then never doing it again, right? I'm sure this guy who built this, I don't know who it is, learnt the value of that a long time ago, right? There's no need to build up something with 10,000 point-to-point bloody wires on it for each new project you build. Right?
Oh, okay. All right. You're saying as a repetitive...
That's what I'm talking about. No, you've got to learn the skill once, right? But then after that, it's pointless, right? Just like, for example, a lot of people will argue that making your own PCBs does not teach you electronics. It's not an essential skill. It's almost pointless to learn to etch and produce your own boards, right? There's no value in it as far as an electronic skill set goes, right?
Right. Maybe from an economic standpoint or a time standpoint.
Yeah, right. It's not that's why I don't make my own boards anymore, right? There's just no value in it.
Right, but you would say that doing it once or twice, it's
maybe
the point
doing
of
it once or twice to understand the process of over-etching and stuff like that, and things like that, right?
Yeah, I guess you don't have to do it to the point of mastery anymore, though. I mean, like certain things, like you would do it because you want to master it, because then you're going to have to use it a lot, but maybe mastery isn't the point anymore. It's more of context, right?
The thing with troubleshooting, right, you only have to make a mistake once and you learn. All right. If you drop that 10,000 bit of piece of equipment, you've learned something, right? If you've blown up that that prototype board because you hooked the wires up backwards, that's etched in your mind, right? You don't have to do that you don't have to blow up 1,000 boards to realize. No, come on.
No, but seriously. It took me a long I mean, like, with... all right, so assuming you don't have, outside help, right? It took me a long time to learn the value of flux in soldering, right? I know it shouldn't have taken me as long as it did, but it did. That's just something that it...
Right.
I just had crappy soldering for a long time, and then it would bite me certain ways. It was, small nibbles that ended up getting me,
right.
A joint would break, or I'd have, like, an intermittent...
But you've got to admit, there's many things like applying power to your board backwards or something like that can be a very expensive, costly mistake, and you only do it once and then you learn, right? Power up your board using a current limited power supply first or something like that, right?
Yes. Yes.
Or you touch the hot end of the soldering iron, right? You don't have to do that 100 times to learn that. Well, that's dangerous, right?
Yeah. Or you have Butterfingers with those really sharp tweezers, and it starts to go towards your lap, and you're like, you're like watching in slow motion. You're like,
yeah. or you're using you're soldering SMD parts. You got them all on the bench, and you sneeze, and then they all just go everywhere, and you've lost them. Right? You don't have to do that once to realize that. I mean,
you're down to your last part, and you've got it in your tweezers, and then you squeeze too hard, and it goes pew, across the room.
So yes, this mastery thing, doing it to working 10,000 hours on something. It doesn't apply to everything, right? Some things, just once.
Well, yeah, and the mastery thing, there's an asterisk with that too. You need, I think, anytime they say with the 10,000 hour rule of the mastery, you need to have directed work and directed feedback, right? So if you, if you grab the hot end of the soldering iron, you need to not grab it 100 more times before learning. You need to recognize it and then modify behavior. If you don't do that, then the 10,000 hours is worthless.
Well, of course, but usually usually the things that take 10,000 hours to master are usually quite complex, like PCB layout or something.
Yes.
Or RF design or something, right? They're usually complex subjects, but so it doesn't apply to really dead ass simple things.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah.
Well,
there you go.
It's good that his awesome project got us yelling at each other.
Yeah, it's great. Sure, people are loving it.
Yep.
Anyway, so what? No, I just think it's point to point wiring. God.
Well, do it like you said. Do it once. I thought you meant to never do it. I think doing it.
Oh
once
no. I see. As I said, I've done this Once myself. Well, this was because you had to back in the day. Back when I did this, right, in the 80s, well, I didn't have a freaking CAD program, right? And to make your own PCB, right, you couldn't get one made commercially because it cost you $1,000, right? It's not. Right. It doesn't cost you $30 from freaking IT studios that it does these days, right? Yep. And even to make your own, it'd take so long to etch and drill 10 of these boards that, well, you may as well just use a perf board and, So I can understand from just getting into it, just bang. Oh, I don't want to lay out a board and do everything just point to point, right? So that's, yeah. But what a dog to debug.
Mm-hmm.
Because it almost certainly didn't work first go.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I've been debugging lately, and Spy is not my friend. Do you ever do any Spy bus stuff?
See, I don't call it spy. I call it SPI.
Yeah?
I've never liked or used the term spy.
Why is that?
I don't know. Just never have. Nobody I know ever does. Well, here, like that I've worked with.
Yeah, but you guys say LEDs too, don't you? You say LEDs instead of LEDs.
Oh, yeah, LEDs, yeah.
Yeah, well.
I mean, no, it's... I don't know why. Ask me why, I have no idea. Right? It's just because nobody else I've worked with does, right? Yeah. It's just, I don't know. People pronounce things differently everywhere.
Yeah.
It's just a fact of engineering and the global world we live in. So I'm not wrong by saying SPI. A few people take me to task on it. It's just call it SPI.
Just different.
It's easier.
Different.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. But I found it seems to be a Yankee thing.
What?
Am I right?
Spy? I don't know. You're the only Australian I know. Well, not the only one I know, but
right.
You're the only one I talk to regularly.
Well, there you go. 100% of people in Australia call it SPI.
Yeah, exactly.
Call it
sample size of one.
SPI. Well, shall we get into Bode and Bodie?
No,
and Bode plots?
No.
No. All right, let's not go there. Been there before. Yeah. Flogged that one to death.
So do you ever do anything with SPI bus though? Are you ever?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yes. Why? What problems are you having with it?
So the main thing that I had is the different modes. I didn't. I knew they were there, but it's like one of those things. It's like checking a footprint, right? It's like the last thing you look at. And so about 3 days later, I'm kind of like staring at this thing, and I'm getting garbage back for 3 days, which probably shouldn't have happened. But
wow, 3 days is a lot.
Yeah, these things happen. But 3 days later, I'm like, oh, nothing's lining up.
Oh dear. So how did you find it in the end? How did you?
It was so. That was another thing too, you're throwing garbage into a system. I was just kind of thrown into a microcontroller and getting these readings back, and I suspect memory corruption. I suspect all these crazy things. Your brain goes all every which way.
Yeah.
And then eventually, what I should have been doing from the beginning is been scoping it, but I had unhooked the board.
I was
going
to ask,
right, yeah, rookie mistake, right? But it's just amazing the kind of stuff that you figure out that way. I mean, I know that this is nothing new for anyone, but it just was a gentle reminder.
Well, see, sometimes you never have these problems because usually it just works, right? You'll use an off-the-shelf, module, SPI interface module, off-the-shelf code for your micro. It's got the SPI hardware in it. You use the example code from that, and it just, you hook it up, you chip, and it just works.
Yeah,
you just throw a command. So you never find it, as we've always said. Troubleshooting stuff is the best way to learn because, well, if you just build something up and it works, what have you learned?
Yeah.
Well,
right.
Not much. That I can solder 10,000 point-to-point wires. Yay, I'm a hero, right? But when that NAND computer doesn't work, that's when you that's when you learn a lot. And same here, right? You wouldn't have learned about all that stuff if it didn't fail on you.
Yeah. And so, of course, the things I learned also were, putting in, it was all software side, really, because that's the thing I was least confident about, right? I mean, like my firmware is always weak. It's always just crap code, And so I started throwing in test statements everywhere, and that ends up messing other things up, This is a test, erase this later, that kind of thing. Don't believe this result. But,
Did you write your own SPI routines? Did you write your own bit bang?
Hardware.
No, you had hardware.
No.
Have you ever written bit bang?
I haven't.
Interfaces like I squared C and stuff like that.
No.
SPI.
You done a lot of that?
Yeah. I've done
probably
every bus in bit bang before. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've written my own from scratch.
It's heavy duty to do that kind of stuff. You just got to sit there and just chunk on it. It's just so wasteful.
Yeah, like well, when you sit down and do it, it's not as hard as you think. If you want to implement,
no.
Especially if you just want to implement the simple, like the bare bones, just to get your chip talking. It's not necessarily that hard. And if you want to do the whole bells and whistles one that you're going to release as open source hardware, like open, source or whatever, then it's a different,
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing on the I2C bus. There's different modes and different things, and you don't have to implement all of them.
You don't want to write like a super flexible, super useful everywhere. Tons of code reuse. You just want to get it cranking.
Yeah, you just want to get it working. So you write your 30 lines of code and it's done.
Right.
Bang.
Well, I didn't mean it was like resource intensive on the processor side. That's what I meant, because you're just sitting there, clocking on a certain GPIO pin or something.
I love using the hardware modules, which is common these days. But hey, 10 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, finding a micro that had a built-in, I2C or SPI hardware or a UART even, right? I've had to bit bang my own UARTs, right? Because, the chip is, because the bottom of the range chip didn't even have a bloody serial UART in it, right?
Yeah, I guess they take that for advantage.
Yeah, you take it for granted these days.
Granted.
You take all of them, right? You go, I'm going to pick any Atmel micro or any microchip micro, and it's going to have an SPI, it's going to have an I2C, it's going to have a serial UART, right? It's just a given these days. But 10,
it really
15
makes sense
ago,
from the hardware manufacturers too. I mean, you look at like certain parts. Like I always looked at like Freescale parts like that. It looks like like some of their newer stuff that they put out. It looks like they're just like pulling stuff off the shelf and just throwing it in there. It's like, if it fits, it ships.
Yep.
That kind of thing. It's just like, okay, well,
that's how they design these chips. They have all the they have all the Verilog or VHDL, the high definition code that they that they use for the ASIC, right? And they just go, well, we'll whack it in. Right, and then the compiler, it generates all the silicon, right?
Yeah,
and
I have no idea how that stuff works, man. All that back end like testing,
all that
all
back
that
end ASIC and all that, all that layout software, all the cadence, the high end cadence ASIC, chip, design stuff, and but it handles it. That's how they do it, right? They've got all these high level modules, and they go, right, well, it's trivial for them. It's a couple of minutes work to say this chip is going to have 2 SPI modules, and they just drag them in.
Mm-hmm.
It's too easy.
It's nice. I tweeted about that earlier this week too, because I got to talk to some product definers and stuff like that. And
product definers,
yeah. So they're like what they really are is like,
this their business? Is this their title on their business card?
Yeah,
I'm a product.
Yeah, a
definer.
lot of times it is.
I don't do any real work. I just define shit.
No, but that's the thing. So these are like engineers who are like really good at what they do, though. Like they're like basically they keep moving up the chain in terms of like they're start designing modules. This is like chip manufacturers, and then eventually they become system. They get more and more parts of the design, and then eventually they go out and talk to customers. But I like these guys because they're often they're almost always former engineers or still acting as engineers.
Course. Yeah.
And that like you go into a meeting with an engineer versus like just like a pure marketer. I mean, there's been a lot of good marketers I've talked to too, but you talk to them and you hear them like going through the design decisions behind, well, we decided to do this because of this geometry or this process. That is just awesome. Like when there's some kind of like logic behind the decisions there. That just gives me warm fuzzies, It's just
exactly.
Like, oh yay! People know what they're doing.
Boy.
Great.
But they don't necessarily, because there's so many. This is a thing that ticks me off. There's so many variations on these chips these days, and they're all buggy. They're every single one of them. Why can't they just stick to, a dozen types of chips? They've got everything built in. Make zillions of them, so get the cost down, and they're fully debugged, and they've gone through 10 silicon revision levels.
Oh, because money.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Yeah, we had the guys. Yeah, we had the guys on here talking about from Touchstone, right? And they were talking about, there's business reasons for them to do as many variations of the chips as possible, right? There's legitimate
that's
business.
Going to get so much worse.
Yeah.
Too. I mean, from the SoC, the silicon on chip kind of like system level stuff too. It's terrible. Every time, I think I've said this before, but every time I meet with like, high level vendors and stuff like that, talking about new, modules they're doing and everything, I'm like, dude, you're killing me here. You're taking my job. Like on one hand, I'm like, oh, this is going to be easy. On the other hand, I'm like, seriously, this is what analog designers used to do. And now it's all inside a little chip. And I just talked to a spy. It's like, screw you guys. What a job. So I'll just have to do my own thing eventually. That's going to be, that'll be it. We'll all just be mashing stuff together and talking to spy over it. Like it's moving to higher levels of abstraction. And then,
so you can't see yourself doing this sort of shit on Mars, can you? You just, you can't see yourself sitting down there with a scope trying to debug something to get something fixed or working, right? You just, everything modular, right?
Probably. Unless you really needed it, right? I mean, you'd need to go back.
Well, if you were absolutely desperate and it was the last backup that failed, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I think from a system level design thing, if you're tearing panels apart while you're on a board, you're probably doing it wrong. Yep. Shit has probably hit the fan.
Well, they said that 2 of the 4 people that would go in a Mars Direct trip, right? They realised the optimum number of people would be 4. Then 2 of them would have to be
robots,
maintenance, repair, cluey people who could fix shit.
The tinkerer.
Yeah, exactly.
Now hiring makers for the mission.
So it's interesting the makeup of what skill set people need, but none of it was like to the level of detailed design knowledge. It was more of
think on your feet kind of survivor type.
Heath Robinson-ish kind of. Fixing, repair, kind of.
Heath Robinson? Who says that? Is that like someone that's older than me?
That's a Yankee. That's a cobbling together of shit, isn't it? Have I got the terminology wrong? I've probably got it wrong. Probably embarrassed myself.
Heathcliff?
Heath Robinson-ish. He's best known for doing eccentric machines. Sorry, there's probably not the right terminology.
I'm sure. No, it could very well be me. I mean, you know that.
Yeah, but it means to get something weird working with anything you have available. Kind of cobbling together, kind of.
Gotcha.
Kind of like a MacGyver. So 2 of the people who go there have to be MacGyvers. They've got to fix stuff.
Yeah, a rubber band and bubble gum and yeah.
Right.
I imagine. So like when you got like a bunch of new boards in. And you blow up the first 3, and you kind of label what happened to them, and you kind of toss them aside. Yeah. Can you imagine that, like on a Mars mission, just having like a bunch of boards floating around and be like, "Oh yeah, I blew those up. I really shouldn't have because now we can't breathe."
Well, the good thing is Darwin works a treat in that case.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
What the people that breathe the least?
Yeah, people who do stupid things will people who do stupid things will ultimately remove themselves from the gene pool. They will kill themselves. They'll get themselves killed, and they can't reproduce. And
I think if you're going to Mars, you probably can't anyways. But
all right,
yeah. Man,
jeez, we've been yapping on for an hour about what?
Oh,
nothing. Mars and shit.
Spy.
Mars and swings and spy bus. Bloody hell! Got through nothing we had on the list.
Well, we can get some things in here. I'm sure.
Ian Ross, president of Bell Labs, died at 85 years of age.
Yeah, that was a loss.
Noteworthy.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, like, headed Bell Labs, so of course,
care
right?
Factors,
well, I mean, it's not like I know him, It's just
exactly. I don't,
Yeah.
But no, he was an important figure in the history of development of electronics and technology, and
Yeah.
And of course, Bell Labs, one of if you havenven heard of Bell Labs, well, get the hell out of the industry, or you're so such a young whippersnapper that we're just going to whack you over the head and go order you to go.
Let's say go to Wikipedia and start reading.
Yeah, exactly. Go to Wikipedia and learn about Bell Labs.
Yeah.
So,
what was the thing I was going to bring up? Oh, so I had someone contact me about something called circuit lava. This is kind of an interesting concept of like.
It's not another bloody online tool. It sounds like the name of another online schematic tool or something.
No, this is like a marketplace actually. So it's like you
marketplace
design
for what?
For circuit design. So it's like you have a fully formed, tested like circuit, like a DC switcher,
spy
right?
bus. You got a spy bus
yeah,
interface
well, yeah,
board.
yeah, no, but like more of a PCB level, like a
a
5 to 3
thing.
switcher. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And
okay.
basically you have these completely tested and long-term supported ideas, basically. So Dave, you would design a 5 to 3 volt switcher with like an LT part or something like that. You package it up, you show the test, you have all the results, you have input ports, output ports, modular design, and then you put it on there and you say, because it's a relatively simple design, but I'm willing to support it for, 5 years or something like that, it's $5. Some very nominal amount for like something simple. The more, if you did like a big DSP circuit, then you would actually, charge more and everything if there was like firmware involved. But this is kind of a new idea that's out there. And so what they're doing is they're looking for potential designers, basically. I was contacted about it, and
right,
it's tough.
Well,
no, I knew that side was coming.
My opinion?
Right? I know what your opinion is already, but before you do, let me just say this: it's interesting because. Okay. I know what Dave's going to say. Dave's going to say that this information is already out there, and a lot of people would be willing to do it themselves. And I do agree with that. But I've been thinking about this a little bit, and I even told this to them. I was like, well, I'm not sure I'd be able to ever use it. But on the same side, there are people out there that would, I think. And so
it's a niche thing.
It might be niche thing, but everything starts as niche. They think
it's mainstream. I'm telling you, it's going to be niche. Okay, this concept is not new. It's been around for a long time. Even Altium tried it, right? Altium's concept of the future of electronics design, right? This is a company that thinks about this sort of shit, right? Well,
yeah.
Okay, well, they get brain flashes.
Except for who they hire.
And they think, everything's going to be modular. Right?
Yeah.
Everything. Right? You don't have to design that switching converter anymore. It's already done. Modular. Take everything, like the PCB layout and everything. This was Altium's plan, right? You don't even have to do the layout. Take the modular. Yeah. And put them everywhere. And it doesn't work. Okay, it's never going to work. It'll work for a few people, but very niche, right?
It's a tough
but for
problem.
mainstream stuff, it's never going to work. Right? Because there's so many design constraints in engineering, as we've talked about. Can you use this part? Is it already an approved part in your system? Is it does it meet the form factor you require? Does it require does it meet the price performance target you require? Does it meet the size factor? Does it meet the soldering technology? Does it is it the correct packages that your assembler can handle? Is it? And there's like a dozen different decisions where there's a. Here's the thing with this thing. There's a dozen different reasons not to use that module than there is to use it. Right? There's 10 times more reasons not to use it than there is to use it.
I think it depends, though. I mean, like so. In certain situations, right? So I mean, everything's moving to higher levels of abstraction. If you're able to piece together circuits, I think, and you're able to actually, say you're just trying to define it from a system level, then this could work. And that's the interesting side of it. I think you're right when you have tight constraints,
but into a final
budget.
Commercial product, no. Sure, if you're lashing together a ATE test system for production or something, sure, you don't want to dick around designing all the, it's like, here's a module, I'm going to use that, and that, and you build a 1-off or 10-off, right? Fine. But, there's limited appeal to this, I'm telling you. I looked at doing this. I was going to do this 20 years ago. I was going to make a business out of selling modular electronics, modular systems like this that you plug together, right? It's not new. I've investigated it extensively 20 years ago, and it was not viable then. It's not viable now. I'm sorry.
Well, hey, man, don't rain on parades if you didn't go through with it.
Sure, have a go, but don't think it's going to be the future of electronics, because it's not. Well, practical considerations always rule.
I agree with that. I mean, like, so what I told them is, like, I think about it from my perspective of, so first off, I had the same kind of the same kind of situation where I was like, well, damn it, there goes that part of the job too, right? I mean, like, seriously, that right, the other thing too is like, what's going to be what's left for me? I have to learn how to code.
Can come in and assemble assemble a new product,
Yeah.
All right.
But so there was that side of things, but on the other side, it's like, well, I'm not sure I'd be able to use it, but at the same time, I can very, very well think of some situations where people could. So
of course,
I want to put it out there.
I would have told him the same thing. I wouldn't use it myself, but I can think of many reasons why somebody can use it. But I'm going to be honest and say I can also think of an order of magnitude more reasons why people won't use it. So just take that. Just you have to tell people the truth, right? Yeah, you got to tell them the truth. That, in my experience, that is the case. So, if you think I'm wrong, fine, I could well be. For a lot of,
I was watching this presentation about I forget, it was about startups though. And it was about funding and basically, like, when people did startups for, like, I think the example they gave was dog food, and they said, well, there's 100 million dogs in the world. Or their dogs eat 100 million cans of dog food a day, and we can get 1% of the market. How hard is 1% of the market? It's But like, it's those kind of considerations, right? Like, especially when there's critical mass needed in order to actually move forward. It's like, 1% is tough, right? And then
it's
getting
the practical considerations,
right, getting from 0.1% to 1%
simple things
is tough.
Like in terms of dog food, how do you actually get your product onto the shelf in the local supermarket, right? It's like, it doesn't matter. You can have the greatest ideas in the world, but the practical considerations could kill you. And the way the market works and the way the industry works,
business is hard.
Yeah, exactly.
Circuit's good, business hard.
Oh boy.
All right. Anything left on the list? I don't know if there is.
I don't know.
People should go.
There was chip printing stuff. Well, no, flexible circuit stuff, which excites you. And
subreddits. The IEEE. People should go to reddit.com/r/the amp hour. You can either add your own stories throughout the week, or just read stuff we didn't get to,
and you can vote them up.
You can vote them up, vote them down. You can make comments. You can yell at me for posting too much. Whatever you'd like to do. Right. One thing that we should mention is Bunny Huang has a great letter about releasing his book on hacking the Xbox.
I haven't
really
read
cool
that yet. Right.
You should. That's really good.
Yep, I will.
Yeah.
And there was something that got voted up here about a Raspberry Pi-based pick-and-place machine for less than $2,000. Once again, it's not going to happen. Practical considerations are probably going to kill it. I haven't even looked at it, and I can already tell you that practical
Dave just goes on the list. He goes,
kill it.
yes, no, yes,
exactly.
no.
That's what I like to think I'm good at.
We can make the show like 2 minutes long, right? Go to the subreddit. Number 1, yes. Number 2, no. Number 3, yes. Number 2, no. 4, no. Done. Get out of here. See ya. Amp hour out.
I don't have to do all the MythBuster style testing to know whether something's plausible or not.
MythBusters more like opinion givers.
and I reckon probably 80% of the time I'm going to be right. So it's good enough for me. We've talked about it before. A pick and place machine is a low end pick and place machine. It's just not practical. It has that in such a narrow window of usability that it's just not going to work. Can't work.
I don't know. Ian's doing that from Dangerous Prototypes too. That's another thing we were looking at. He's got a Chinese one. He's got that 4,000-hour Chinese one, and so he's been going through that.
Oh, right. I haven't seen it. Does it work?
Yeah, it does. It's pretty cool. Right. I mean, the menus are all in Chinese, but looks cool.
I thought they didn't do anything in-house. I thought they
they're starting to. They're starting to.
Oh, right. Oh, why is that? They want more of the 10% cut than they're getting from Seed
I don't know.
Studio?
Well, reshoring. It's a thing.
Oh, reshoring. Oh, wank word of the day, folks.
Insourcing. Reshoring.
Reshoring, yes. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, I'm going to have a look at this. Okay, it's only a 5-minute video. There you go.
Imagine that.
There it is. Yeah, I got no such thing. Oh, no, I do. I just uploaded the video that's only 5 minutes. Because I extracted it from another 20-minute video, which was in turn extracted from another 1 hour video. So, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
All right, so last thing for real. We've already got 400 responses for the survey. That's awesome. So if you haven't filled out the survey from last week, please do so. Remember, we're giving away T-shirts. We're going to do drawings. More than one T-shirt. Don't worry about that. To people that participate. And for people that were filling comments in on the page that posted the survey, you actually have to fill out the survey to be entered in the contest. So, well, thanks to everyone. It's been great feedback. You'd be surprised how many people think Dave talks over other people. I might have filled all those in. We'll see.
Of course I do. That's my style. Take me or leave me.
Don't talk over me, Dave. Don't
try and change me. What? I didn't hear you say. I was too busy talking.
I know. Yeah. All right, guys. We'll see you next week.
Well, I won't, because I won't be here.
Oh, yeah. I'll see you next week. Well, Dave's going on vacation. I'll be here.
You're doing whatever. I don't care. You can,
We'll see.
Yep.
Surprises.
Couldn't care less. I'm taking a week off.
Good. See ya.
Bye.
So before I was taking the dogs out, and I don't know why. I think because yesterday was St. Patrick's Day.
Right.
I kept doing this voice. I said, Luke, I'm your farter. I'm your farter, Luke. I have no idea where it came from. Maybe my dog farted or something. But whatever it was, I started doing Irish Darth Vader.
Yep.
Luke, I am your farter.
Father. Oh dear, that's sad.